Welcome to the Grow Your Business and Grow Your Wealth podcast with Gary Heldt. Gary is an expert in helping business owners put together a plan that will provide a better future for their businesses, themselves, and their families. On the podcast, Gary interviews other professionals who share his vision, and together they share secrets and strategies any business owner can use to build a better financial foundation for your business and your life.
Welcome back to the podcast, and today our guest is Rob Schulz, and he is the founder and president of Schulz Wealth. Welcome.
Thanks, Gary. It's great to be here.
So, tell us, how did you get into financial planning and wealth management?
Oh, I kind of stumbled into it. Just trying to find what I wanted to do, but then also something that I could make a living at. I guess I started out my career actually in the Navy. I was a naval officer out of college, and I found myself just working with the sailors on different things. They didn't make a lot of money. They had a lot of needs, and I would end up just kind of working with them on financial things because I had an accounting degree from UT, and I liked that stuff. So when I got out of the Navy, I was like, well, what am I going to do? And I was like, well, I want to help people like that. I want to be a financial planner, but I didn't know how to. I didn't know what one was. I didn't know anything. So I went to work for, one of the large financial services firms, on full commission, nearly starved the first year, that sort of thing. And then started having a lot of success, and then realized that I didn't really want to work for a large financial services firm. I wanted to work for my clients. So started that long transition into being a registered investment advisor, fee only advisor, where I work solely for my clients and do planning for them. And we also invest their assets.
That's great. So, along this way that, obviously you're now the founder and president of your own company. What made you decide to really go out there and do that? Because obviously that's a big step to make, taking on all the responsibility yourself.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. I think that, I guess it was a little bit of an entrepreneurial spirit, maybe, that, I really had a lot of confidence in myself. I knew what I wanted to do. So I just did it on my own. After getting kind of the training in the industry and so forth, actually my first transition out of that large firm was with a conglomerate. It was, I had 5 partners at First Texas from 2000 to 2014, and we supported each other a lot. But that was a one-stop shop kind of deal. That was those pretty decent sized company where we did everything. We did, all the financial work, 401ks, insurance, you name it. And had a lot of success. But, sometimes you get to a point in your career, it's like, wow, I'm making good money and I'm busy and all that kind of stuff, but I just don't feel fulfilled.
Right.
I don't feel like I'm doing, what I was intended to do. So that's why in 2014, I transitioned out, sold out of that business, and started Schulz Wealth so that I could just do financial planning and asset management.
So, you talked about, fulfilling, yourself and things. So now you've launched a book. Tell us about that. What was your driving force behind that?
I don't know. I started writing several years ago, just started writing kind of for fun. And I was getting a lot of good feedback on what I was writing. And every once in a while, a friend would say, hey, you really ought to write a book. I was like, I don't want to write a book. That sounds hard. And, but they persisted, and I started formulating in my brain, maybe I can write a book. And so I did, and it was every bit as hard as I thought it was going to be, or harder. Right. I thought it was going to be kind of like, I used to do triathlons, and there's a training regimen that you use for that. It takes a lot of self-discipline. I was like, well, it's just going to be kind of like that. It wasn't anything like that at all. It was totally different. But I'm really glad I did it. It was a lot of fun. I decided to just write it on what I wanted to write on, and what I wanted to write on was just base level financial knowledge, base level broad financial knowledge in English, so that
Right.
anybody can understand it. That's what I was looking for when I wrote the book.
Right. I mean, I've started reading your book, and it is, I mean, it's very, I'm going to say it's layman's terms. And
Yeah.
that's one of the things that I always like, is when the professional can put stuff in layman's terms, so anybody can understand it. You talked about that worked with some of the sailors and stuff on the ship that you were on. What were you helping them with? I mean, because obviously, they really didn't have any money at that point. So were you working with them more on, trying to budget and savings, or actually investing?
Not much investing, for sure. It was more real base level stuff. Like, these guys were, there were a lot of predators out there that would, kind of feast on these guys with really, really high interest loans on cars and things like that. I'd go back and unravel those for them.
Okay.
There's a lot of family issues with money, helping them budget and things like that. I did a lot of that. And then I became a VITA volunteer income tax guy. I think they still have that. This is a long time ago.
Right.
And so I did all the tax returns for these guys, because most of them would get money back, but they didn't know what they were doing, or they go to some place that was going to get their money back but take a big chunk of it for themselves.
Yep.
So I would do all their tax returns for them as well. So stuff like that.
Right. So transitioning kind of out of working for them, working for the big company, and then kind of, a little bit smaller, and then now you're on your own, and obviously you're trying to, to build this, build it up. You're doing more, you're doing your book, you're doing some education and things. What is it that kind of now keeps driving you to stay in, the financial advising and dealing with the clients with this?
What you mean, kind of what gets me to wake up in the morning still?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, that's a great question, because, fortunately, I've had a lot of success. So, at this point, I could probably kind of kick back a little bit if I wanted to. I'm 53 years old. And I know you work with business owners, so maybe they can relate to this. And so, I could kind of coast, but I don't know. I feel like I've got another 10 years or so where I really want to do this, and I just feel energized by it. I also have an associate, Austin Smith, in here with me. He's a young guy. Really young, like 25 years old, and he's amazing. And so he keeps me rejuvenated, and he's like really fired up to grow and stuff. So we kind of have this team thing going,
right?
That's really fun and really exciting, and so we're having a lot of fun growing the business together.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, you said you're 53.
Yeah.
I'm 53. A lot of our age and younger, our parents growing up, they had jobs, and a lot of them had, pensions that were connected to their jobs. And in this area in Crofton, we have a lot of federal government employees, so they have their pension. So I can remember my mom saying, "Hey, just work hard and you'll be fine." So the pensions aren't there anymore.
No, they're
The
not.
security may not be there anymore.
Yeah.
So what is it if you had a 50-year-old come into you and say, "Hey, I have no money put away in retirement"? Kind of what are you going to tell them?
Yeah, that happens. For the exact reason that you just stated. We also had 2008. Do you remember that, Gary?
Oh yeah.
I do.
Yes, I do.
It was rough. And so we've all kind of been through some things, and life doesn't, it throws some curveballs at you, and you kind of end up, a lot of times at this stage at our age, and it's like, okay, this hasn't gone exactly the way I'd hoped. And what do I do from here? And my answer on anything like that is planning, planning. That's what we do. We're financial planners. We believe in it. We think it helps us solve problems because, you're sitting there and you have a problem, and the problem is not one for this year. It's one for the rest of your life, however
Right.
long that is going to be. And that could be 40 more years, easily.
Right.
So in order to solve that problem, you have to do projections and have cash flows of future cash flows and calculations, which is what a financial planner does. So when somebody comes in like that, we plan. We create a financial statement and a cash flow for them based upon where they are right now. And normally when somebody comes in, that age, they've pretty much taken care of their debt. Hopefully they've got pretty good cash flow at that point because their career has come up. They've done some things that we can use to help them, really save heavily at
Right.
this point. And that's what it takes. It takes this big giant shift in mentality that, saving $50,000-$70,000 a year, that sounded crazy 10 years ago, but now maybe it's a possibility. And that's what you do. You use what I call power. It's power
Right.
investing, where you really try to throw as much as you can at it, and you use that plan as a guidepost and a motivator to make it happen.
What is it, the clients come into you and see you. What is, some of the questions that you really wish that they would ask you that they don't?
Oh, that's a great question. I don't know. My clients ask me all kinds of questions. That's
Right.
why I wrote a book. I had a
Right.
million
Right.
questions that I get asked all the time. Um, I don't know. I think I Gary, I'm at a loss. I can't think of anything that I wish they would ask me that they don't. Um, Off the top of my head, I'm sorry.
No, that's great. I mean, that says a lot because that means that your clients feel very comfortable with you, that they're willing to ask any question.
I
Because
I think they are, and I guess one of the things that maybe they initially have a problem with is asking how much I get paid, or how that works, or things like that.
right.
Sometimes that's stressful for them, but once they become a client, they realize that that's not an issue for us. We're very very clear about how much we get paid. They get an invoice and all that. It's not like a lot of my industry where it's off over here
Right.
somewhere.
Right.
You never know what it is. It's pretty clear, and then we get to where it's a comfortable thing to talk about.
Okay. Yeah, because I know lots of times I'll have, business clients, lots of times, they're very good at what they do, their trade, but they don't understand business. And so they're afraid to ask the questions
Mhm.
because they have a very successful business, but you know, they just look at, how to run the business, and lots of times they don't know what the questions are that they should be asking. And that's why, we try to do as much education with them as possible to help them out, and not use the big words with them, so they do understand and then get it to where they can.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I think they need that. You can tell, you see it too when your clients come in. There's a lot of stress that can be there in the initial parts of an engagement. And I'm sure you do the same thing. I'm really try hard to try to get that stress level down and get those
Yep.
barriers down where, we can just have a conversation, and that I'm not, and I've had, I have had, I've had people that are worth like a couple of $100 million that are just so stressed out to talk to me because they feel like I might talk down to them, which sounds like the craziest
Right.
thing I've ever heard. But it's because it's not their world,
Right.
and that's one thing I think we can all learn from is just to try to be as human as possible, right? And then it goes a little bit better. Don't try to put on airs and all that kind of stuff. Doesn't work too well.
Right. I agree 100%. I mean, I think that you have the right mindset, and have the client be comfortable and be able to talk freely. I just find that you know, us as professionals, we need as much information from our clients that we can possibly get, and we need the truth. And
Yeah.
sometimes the client doesn't like telling us the truth, and they don't like hearing the truth from us, but it needs to be there, because how can you grow if you don't do that?
No, I agree. And I think what we've done in our business to make sure that it's truth right from the start is we start with that cash flow and financial statement, and it's detailed. It's like, okay, tell us everything, tell us everything that you own, everything that you owe, how much you make, where you spend your money, all the way down to your cable bill,
Right.
and, they don't share that with anybody else.
Right.
So, it's hard, but that's what we have to have, right? We have to have that information if we can help them.
Right. Yeah. I mean, because when I try to talk to the clients, and again, you mentioned that B word, budget, then all of a sudden they just kind of freeze up, and it's like, no, 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 it's okay,
Yeah.
it's okay.
We don't call it that. We don't call it a budget. We call it cash flow.
There you go. There you go. Um, and just trying to work with them to get them to understand that they have options. And I think that that's the biggest thing is showing them that they have options, and it helps them, to get through things.
They always have options. It's just that as humans, we can solve any problem, but we have to have the information to be able to do it. And that's what both of us are doing, is we're just trying to compile the information, collaborate, and then, man, we're going to figure out an answer, if we have all the information, right?
Yeah. I mean, I always, preach to my clients that, okay, we need to build your team, because if we don't have your team, then we can't put together a plan. And, going to, who's your financial advisor? If you don't have one, let's get one. Who's your estate attorney? Who's your, business attorney, and so forth. Because if you don't have these people that you can go to and talk to, how are you going to be able to build your plan? And you need your whole team talking to each other. I'm sure that you have, CPAs and attorneys and things that you work with all the time. And to me, that's very important for people to understand that, excuse me, and be honest with them. It's like, to me, it's like, you can, tell your wife what you want to tell her, but these people, you need to tell them the truth if you want them to help you. So it's always interesting. What, from a, again, I always tell people, you need to use professionals in doing what they do. What is it about you as a professional, and why do you think it's important for somebody to use a professional like you as compared to trying to invest online by themselves?
Sure. And you can invest online by yourself. There are people that do it. There are people that do it successfully. But different strokes for different folks. Generally, you hire somebody like us when it's not what you do for a living, and or it's not anything that you're particularly interested in, or that you want to spend an inordinate amount of your free time on. I mean, those are the people that come to us. They're like, we have people that easily could invest on their own, but they don't have the time because they're very, very successful at their current careers, and they don't want to spend that time on this. And we have others that, really do need the expertise, et cetera. So, they hire us because they want it handled. They want it handled right. They want it handled in a way that they're going to get good feedback and reporting back as to, how their investments are doing, which is not always the case in my industry, unfortunately. And they hire us, to just take care of it and to monitor, and of course to plan. So it just becomes, like you said, a part of the team, and like your clients who are business owners, they have a team of people in their business.
Right.
And a lot of times they don't have that team outside of their business. And it's up to us to kind of convince them that, they kind of need to use the same template, for their personal worth as well as for their business. Because heck, that's what they're doing the business for, is to create wealth for themselves. And having guys like us who report to them and help them and guide them can be critically important.
Right. How often do you think someone should meet with their financial advisor?
Yeah, that is a great question, and that's something that gets debated all the time. Um, most registered investment advisors, have a quarterly cycle, where you send out quarterly statements and you offer to meet with your clients on a quarterly basis. I think that's too often. I really do, because it almost feels like every other month.
Right.
Back when I used to try that, I mean, I would call the client. They're like, "Man, did we not just like talk last month? I mean, really? Can you leave me alone for a while?"
Right.
Um, but then 1 year is a lot of times too long. So we do semi-annual, and we structure it first quarter, third quarter. Um, Try to stay away from tax time
Right.
and end of year. And so we meet all of our clients in the first quarter and the third quarter, have what we call our big meeting, where we update everything, come up with a workflow that we're going to work through together over the next 6 months of what we want to achieve. And then we, call it a ratchet. We're just trying to improve a little bit. We're not trying to solve every problem in the world,
Sure.
just trying to improve it a little bit. Third quarter, we're going to attack it again.
Yeah. I think that that's kind of perfect timing. I try to do that, with my clients, business clients, because first quarter it's like, okay, well, how did everything finish up? Tax
Mhm.
returns done and so forth. And then in the third quarter, sometimes, beginning of fourth quarter, we're meeting to figure out, okay, here before the end of the year, what do we need to do from a, if you don't have a retirement plan set up, let's
Yeah.
get one set up for you. Ones that even the individual clients, talk to them to say, okay, where are your investments? Talk to your investment advisor. Where do they, predict, where your income's going to be and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So if we need to make an estimated payment for the fourth quarter, we have time, to get it together. So I think that's great that you're doing it like that, because it really, your tax partners that you're working with are probably very appreciative that
Yeah.
that's when you're doing it too.
Yeah, they are. We try to respect their time for sure, because they get crunched.
Right. So in reading through some of your stuff, you talked about kind of the do's and don'ts to teaching your kids about financial knowledge. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Oh, sure, I can. Yeah, I did. In a couple of places in the book, I talk about kids, and I don't know if you've noticed this, Gary, but that's a high priority for most of our clients, is their kids. I mean, you start talking about, their kids and their financial strength, and they really start paying attention, because we love our kids and we want them to succeed. And yet at the same time, a lot of the things that we do in trying to train them from a financial standpoint just like don't work.
Right.
We try to, for instance, we try to control them with money. If you really think about it, when we set up because you have a 13-year-old and a 10-year-old, right?
Correct.
So they're like right in there where, they kind of want money for stuff.
Yep.
And so you can say, well, if you wash my car, I can give you some money. And that's good. That's okay. But as they start to get older, kind of what I think works best is to think of it as an ability to let them screw up money with training wheels. They're in your house. They can't screw it up too bad, because you're not going to give them too much money, and you're going to watch and you're going to see what they spend their money on, how they learn how to control, some of those wants and needs,
Mhm.
and spread it out over a period like a month and things like that. And kind of, I think you kind of get back and you let them do that. You say, hey, okay, you've got 16-year-old that's driving and they need money for gas. It's like, okay, well, I'm going to give you, $250 a month. Is that going to cover? They're like, oh my gosh, I
Right.
can't imagine. I've never had that much money. That's
Right.
so awesome. Thanks, Dad. And then, and then they blow it, in the first 15 days, because they don't realize that it's really not that much money.
Right.
And then they're coming back to you for more money. It's like, hey man, that's supposed to last you for the month. You're going to be walking. and then you're going
Right.
to figure it out. And then next month, maybe you won't go out and eat with your friends quite as much in the first part of the month.
Yeah. Or you won't be the one driving everybody around. You'll be
That's
asking them
right.
for gas money if you're driving.
That's right. It's fun to watch because they solve problems, right?
Yeah.
And that's what you're teaching them how to do, is to solve financial problems, and do it while they're still in your house. Because if you wait and you don't do all that, then they're off figuring it out on their own, and that's not near as good.
Right. I agree. Um, what are some of the biggest challenges that you're facing right now?
That I'm facing right now.
Yeah.
Oh, let's see. Life is pretty good. It was weird, 2020 should have been awful, and it was great. Um, I would say that that transition has been an issue for me. I told you I have a young associate,
Right.
but I think we just kind of solved that. We just put in place all of our stuff. He actually owns a little bit of the business now, which is super cool.
Right.
And so that was a big concern of mine, but I think I got that off the table a little bit. I would say, health, as you get to be our age, Gary,
Yeah.
I've tried to have a healthy lifestyle, but I
Right.
go up and down.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and I've put on some weight since COVID started.
Oh yeah.
You know, so Shelly's got me on a diet this week and it's working. So we might have to keep it going.
There you go.
So health is one.
So you're building your team. She's helping you there.
Yeah, that's right. My kids are a little bit older than yours. So, my concern is them launching and, having great careers.
Right.
But they all seem to do what they're supposed to be doing right now and doing great stuff. Two of them are married and have houses. And, so,
That's great.
I'm obviously concerned for them, but they seem to be doing really well. Those are kind of some of the things that, that I'm concerned about in a certain way, and that I want to try to, be better at, I guess.
And I mean, I think that goes to show, you're saying that, your kids, are doing well, married, houses, so forth and so on. I think that really goes to show that the kids are really paying attention, no matter if you think they are or not, and, emulating what their parents have shown them over time.
They all read my book,
Yeah.
which I was shocked.
That's great.
I really didn't expect any of them to read it at all, right? Because that's what we expect as dads. They're not
Right,
going to listen to
exactly.
us.
Right.
But they all read my book. That was really awesome.
Did they come back to you and, hey, you never taught me this?
I didn't get a whole lot of feedback, but they did. I think they enjoyed it. I think they really did.
That's
And
great.
honestly, the biggest feedback I've gotten from the book are from kind of young marrieds, that maybe have young children or just kind of starting out with this stuff,
Right.
maybe in their 30s. Those are the ones who have just gone. I've had a few of them that just have told me, they said, this has absolutely changed my life, which that is definitely what you want to hear, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So that's definitely a key demographic for the book. It seems like that's who's really benefiting from it most, is that age group.
Right. So are you ready to write your next book, or you're going to take a little break?
I am. I'm a glutton for punishment.
That's awesome. So if any of our listeners want to reach out to you and discuss their financial plans, or get help, or talk to you about your book, how do they reach out to you?
Yeah, we're very accessible. My website is Schulz Wealth, and Schulz is spelled weird. It's SCHULZ, no T, schultzwealth.com. You can schedule some time on the phone with us very easily on the website. The other place where I like to connect with people, if they just have some questions or just want some support, is through our Facebook group. We have a Facebook group called Thoughts on Things Financial. That's the name of the book. It's closed, so you just have to ask for permission. I'll let you in there, and we can talk in there. And there are other people in there that kind of share, and as we all just try to get better at this stuff.
Right. That's awesome. So is there anything that I haven't asked you that you wish I had?
Yeah, one big key in the book is about automation. If sometimes I get asked, what is the one thing that really can make a difference in saving? And my answer always is just automate as much as you can. Just put it on autopilot, because it's really, really hard to just make yourself save what's left over at the end of the month, because it's just not going to happen.
Right.
That's why 401ks are so successful, is because not because they're phenomenal investments or anything like that, because a lot of them aren't, but because they take that out of your check before you ever even see it. Use that to build up your cash, your other investments, your college savings. Use it to reduce debt. Automate is a real key, I think, to the people that I see who are really financially successful.
Right. That's awesome advice. We really appreciate your time and your wisdom. I think that anybody out there wants to read a really good book. Thoughts on Things Financial is a great read, and like I said, it's very much in layman's terms, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks, Gary. I appreciated being on. This was a lot of fun.
Great. So today our guest on the webcast has been Rob Schulz with Schulz Wealth. Thank you.
This show has been produced by Market Domination, LLC. To discover how you can have your own show completely done for you and turn it into a real published book and become the authority in your marketplace, go to www.marketdominationllc.com/podcast offer.